The balance between variety and consistency is a difficult one, especially in music. Change too little and you might fade away. Change too much and you might lose your original essence, thus alienating your fan base. You want to be able to experiment with your sound without losing your core spirit. Although they certainly aren't the only band to pull this off, one band stands out in my mind. Panic at the Disco. Welcome to James's Jukebox. In this episode, I will be looking at the evolution of Panic at the Disco. Rather than focus on the history of the band, I want to take a look at the evolution of the band throughout each album. While music theory isn't exactly my major, I have been listening to Panic for at least 8 years. I also re-listened to their entire discography while writing this script, over the course of about 2 to 3 days. In addition, I referred to Wikipedia for verified facts such as dates and track listings. So with that out of the way, let's jump into the first album. A Fever You Can't Sweat Out was released in 2005. It featured Brendon Urie on lead vocals, Ryan Ross on lead guitar, Brent Wilson on bass guitar, and Spencer Smith on drums. Even within their first album, they experimented with various styles and instruments. Wikipedia summarizes it best. The first half is primarily pop-punk, with elements of electronic, while the second employs more traditional instrumentation, with influences of baroque pop and swing. So first you have songs like Time to Dance and Kamasudo that have drum machines and synths along with guitars. Then comes a track literally titled Intermission. It starts with an instrumental dance beat but then states,
"Ladies and gentlemen, due to circumstances beyond our control, we are unable to continue our broadcast of dance music. We shall continue now with our piano interlude."
After intermission, the synths and drum machines seem to have been replaced with strings and an accordion. The piano continues until strings join a crescendo, then it cuts to the next song, But It's Better If You Do, which starts with simple piano and drums, and then transitions smoothly into the band's big hit, I Write Sins Not Tragedies. I feel that not sticking to one genre in their first album has allowed them to evolve and change in future ones, and boy was their next album quite a change. In 2008, Panic at the Disco released their second album. For this album, they recorded parts of it at Abbey Road Studios, had a song about a non-existent measurement of time, and wore marching band outfits and animal masks for a music video. Their influence was fairly obvious. Marilyn Manson, the Beatles, as well as other psychedelic bands like the Beach Boys. With this 60s and 70s style came a slower, more relaxed tone, as heard in songs like Northern Downpour,
Hey moon, please forget to fall down.
and When the Day Met the Night. Even the more upbeat songs lack that raw, manic energy of Fever. We're So Starving versus Time to Dance. 9 in the Afternoon versus The Only Difference.
Sit tight, I'm gonna need you to keep time. Come on, just snap, snap, snap your fingers for me.
That's not to say I dislike the mellow, down-to-earth vibe. It's just pretty different. It's hard for me to add any additional commentary as most of this album is so unlike anything else the band did before and after it. This might be because after this album there were creative differences on where to take the band next. Ryan Ross and John Walker ended up leaving the band to form The Young Vanes, which continued the 60s-inspired sound. And so, with the new perspective, Brendon and Spencer continued as a duo. In 2011, they released Vices and Virtues. It's sort of a more polished, mature version of the first album, in that they returned to the pop rock and baroque pop style. In fact, the music video for the lead single of this album, The Ballad of Mona Lisa, references the I Write Sins Not Tragedies music video. They're stellar songs that have a lot of energy. The fast drum machine beat and the scrappy lyrics and attitude of Fever songs like The Only Difference are back with the song Let's Kill Tonight. The song Always reminds me of Northern Downpour, in that they are both slow acoustic guitar songs. My favorite Panic song ever is this album's closer, Nearly Witches, parentheses, Ever Since We Met. It was originally conceived during the Pretty Odd era, but was scrapped because it didn't fit the theme of said album. Anyways, I just love it. It has a grand cinematic feel about it. Whether it's the simple drums, changing tempo, choir, or whatever, it's truly epic. Too Rare to Live, Too Rare to Die was released in 2013. Growing up in Vegas was Brendon's main inspiration for this album, hence the song Vegas Lights. The synths from Fever are back with a vengeance. In some songs they are stronger than ever. I feel like this album can be grouped into 4 distinct styles. 1. A combination of emotion and guitar, which I call panic rock. This would be This Is Gospel and Miss Jackson. This Is Gospel combines the lyrical emotion of Lying Is the Most Fun with the instrumental power of Nearly Witches. I'm not sure about Miss Jackson other than the fact that the chorus includes the words Goddamn and Doors. Also guitars. 2. The synth part of Fever if it was inspired by the 80s. This includes Nicotine, Vegas Lights, and Girls, Girls, Boys. Three, Depeche Mode. With their hypnotic synths and deep, somewhat monotonous voice, these songs remind me of Depeche Mode. These songs are The Girl That You Love, Casual Affair, and Far Too Young to Die. There's also Colorful, which is a combination of the 3 previous categories. The 4th one is very specific. It's Hide and Seek by Image Heap, and it only applies to the album's closer, The End of All Things. This album marks the end of another era, as foreshadowed in This Is Gospel. Spencer Smith left to focus on recovering from his alcohol addiction, and Dallin Weeks was demoted from an official member to just a touring member, thus leaving Brendon as the only official member. The most recent album, 2016's Death of a Bachelor, has a lot of contradictions. Brendon Urie provided not only the vocals, but the guitar, bass, and drums. Yet it doesn't sound like the Brendon Urie show. Sonically, it still feels like Panic at the Disco, but it still doesn't feel like any previous album. You can tell Brendon's creative influence on the lyrics as they feel particularly personal, however, and there are some themes that cross over from the previous album. Since the album came out just last year, I'm still trying to figure out how it fits into the overall evolution of the band. Let's start out with the new sound of this album. Synthesizers and Depeche Mode have been replaced by horns and Frank Sinatra, which are most prominent in the title track and Impossible Year. As different as those two may sound, there were some lyrical themes from the previous album that did cross over. Both albums had a song with religious themes, This Is Gospel and Hallelujah, as well as an upbeat, danceable song about a southwestern U.S. city, Vegas Lights and LA Devotee. Digging a little deeper, there's an interesting connection between This Is Gospel and Emperor's New Clothes. This Is Gospel was about Brendon's frustration with Spencer's addiction problem, and Emperor's New Clothes is about Brendon dealing with taking control of the band after Spencer left to take care of said problem. That's what the chorus seems to be about, in a hyperbolic, tongue-in-cheek way, of course. That's also probably why the two music videos are connected. Here are 4 other observations I've made while re-listening to this album. 1. Don't Threaten Me With a Good Time follows Fall Out Boy's lead of sampling seemingly random surf rock songs. Fall Out Boy's Uma Thurman samples The Munsters, while Panic at the Disco's Don't Threaten Me With a Good Time samples Rock Lobster. 2. I didn't realize it at first, but Don't Threaten Me With a Good Time has that trap, rap, hey in the background. 3. The drums for Crazy Equals Genius reminds me of the tables from Fever. And 4. Wait a minute. Both House of Memories and The Good, the Bad, and the Dirty have that almost but not quite Millennial Whoop thing going on. There's a link in the description that explains what the Millennial Whoop is, but for now all you need to know is that it's a trend in pop music that's becoming a bit cliche. Okay, let's get on to the conclusion. The evolution of the band is complicated and layered, but there are connections between and across each record. You just have to look a little deeper and do some peeling. There were certain things that kept appearing throughout Panic at the Disco's current discography. Guitars. Each album has at least 2 songs where a distorted guitar riff is front and center. Almost all the songs on Fever have a guitar, the exceptions being the introduction and the intermission. Pretty Odd had She's a Handsome Woman and That Green Gentleman. Vices and Virtues has The Ballad of Mona Lisa and Memories. Too Weird to Live, Too Rare to Die has This Is Gospel and Miss Jackson. Death of a Bachelor has Don't Threaten Me with a Good Time and LA Devotee. I don't know the technical term for it, but a couple of songs have a looping melody that reminds me of a music box. I Write Sins Not Tragedies, Build God Then We'll Talk, The Ballad of Mona Lisa, Ready to Go, Trade Mistakes, and Victorious. Strings are also a recurring theme. I Write Sins Not Tragedies, When the Day Met the Night, Trade Mistakes, and The End of All Things. And the biggest and most obvious unifying factor of Panic at the Disco is Brendon Urie and his voice. He could play polka, and as long as there were guitars to give it that rock edge, it'd still be Panic at the Disco. The voice makes the band, and with Brendon's unique range and style, it's what makes Panic, Panic. And so, from the Beatles to Frank Sinatra, from a circus to a satanic cult, Panic at the Disco will continue to evolve because they swore to shake it up if we swore to listen. Thank you so much for watching. I plan on making more videos on other bands and stuff. So like and subscribe if you want more. Also, what do you think of Panic at the Disco's evolution? I'd love to hear your thoughts, especially if you study music theory or something. This is where I would link to older episodes, but since this is my first video, here are 2 videos I found while researching for the script. One is about Brendon Urie, and the other is about Panic at the Disco's evolution. And I think that's it. Okay, bye!